Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the legendary Around the Wicket podcast. This is our week 7 recap of the IPL. As you heard, I played some Punjabi music in the opening, and that's because CSK is officially out of the tournament. So I've now shifted my allegiance over to the Punjab Kings. So yeah, I'm Vivin. With me, I have Rehan and Om. So yeah, guys, what's up? How's life?
Bad week. RCB lost.
Yeah, actually, we did lose. How? What about you, Rehan?
KKR's
After
winning
winning
again,
though,
so that's pretty solid.
we
Yeah.
won one, we lost one. So yeah.
Okay, so let's dive right into it. Let's start with the team that we always start with. That is, of course, the Chennai Super Kings. So CSK, my team, due to some unfortunate circumstances, we are now officially out of the IPL. We stand no chance. We join MI at the bottom of the table that has no possibility of winning or of qualifying, no matter how well we play and how lucky we get. So yeah, I mean it was pretty unfortunate considering the lack of DRS when that Conway decision was pretty clearly, I thought, going down leg. I don't know what that umpire was on, but after that, yeah, CSK's batting completely collapsed, and even though we had a decent time with the ball at the beginning, Tilak Varma was able to win the game for MI fairly comfortably. So yeah, CSK is out. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, CSK is out. Um, I mean, if you look at it, actually, the 2 seasons where Suresh Raina hasn't played for CSK, they've not qualified for the playoffs, which I think is a funny coincidence. But last game against Gujarat Titans, it was their first game after being officially knocked out, and we saw them bring in some new players, given some caps. Obviously, Jagadisan had played a few years ago but failed, but now they've gotten back after some impressive domestic seasons, and he batted at for them after replacing Rayadu. Uttapa was out, and they also rested Dwayne Bravo and uh, gave a cap to the Sri Lankan uncapped player Parithana, and he has a sling like action like Malinga, and it was good to see CSK actually give youngsters a chance for once, because CSK is where youngsters go to end their careers because they never get chances. So yeah, that was good to see. Maybe that's the one positive uh, of CSK getting knocked out. We finally get to see some new talent.
Fair enough.
I think CSK has, well, they've lost their two matches that they've played in this week, and they've not been up to their mark with their batting. We've seen that as soon as Conway gets out, CSK get out, because even though Ruturaj scored runs in the last game, no one else could carry on. So they need one of the openers to get a 90-run innings for them to actually put up a competitive score on board, or just any score above par, which has not happened for a long time. So if Conway goes, CSK goes. Moeen Ali's been absolutely abysmal. Well, you can say that he's played his cameos, but I don't think CSK need at 3 a guy who plays his cameos when the openers are not performing. When Faf and Ruturaj are playing like they were, Moeen Ali at 3 was fine, even though he failed. Like he was up and down, but Moeen Ali at 3 isn't a guy to do the role that they want them to do. Um, at a 3, someone like what do you say, inform Williamson, they need someone like that. I don't think they have anyone on this side who can do play that role yet. Uttappa's been sent down the order, and that's been that's also been a rocky road for him. He did quite well opening and hasn't done well so far. Ambati Raidu has been an absolute failure. Shivam Dubey, after injury, I don't think we've seen any impact of performances from him, but he's been a solid scorer for them this season. And Dhoni, and if you're really looking for runs below that, then you're not doing a good enough job, because your top 5, 6 have to give you most of the runs, and Dhoni, Bravo, and the others are just finishers. So I think the batting needs to be spruced up with people who can actually bat, or can get the big runs. To me, Ambati Raidu, like Suresh Raina was, is finished. So Ambati Raidu is a waste of a position there. So is Moin Ali. If Moin Ali is playing, I think you play him at 7 or something like that. But at I think 3, 4, 5, they need proper batsmen in there who are going to score them the runs. Maybe something like what an SRH has, right? Rahul Tripathi, and then Nicholas Puran, and wait, who's the other guy? Aiden Markham, yes. Maybe something like that in the CSK lineup. We'll see what they get in next time. On the side of the bowling, I think the bowling has been quite decent. I mean, like you can't really blame the bowling. Mukesh Chaudhary's been outstanding against Mumbai. We saw how well he used the swing and how he did such an exemplary job. Simarjeet's been good for his first season. Both these guys have exemplary first seasons. So is Tikshana. Bravo, as usual, their highest wicket taker. Never fails to impress. Other than that, I don't have many problems with the bowling attack, but their batting in these last two games has been absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I mean, bowling wise, it's clear that the only two bowlers who are doing well for us are Mukesh and Simarjeet, particularly with now Tikshana out of the team. And like we saw it in the MI game, obviously a must-win game for CSK. I think our first 8 overs were just Chaudhary and Simarjeet. We bowled them both out because Dhoni understood that in order to win that game, we just had to get as many wickets up front as possible, which is obvious. You can't defend a score like 80, 85 without sort of getting wickets. You can't do it based on economy alone. That's absurd. Uh, so yeah, I think that's it on the CSK front. We're out now, so that's an L. Hence my shifting to now supporting the Punjab Kings, and hence the intro. So yeah, anything else?
Yeah, like Om spoke about Moeen not doing that well with the bat. I think that's also partly due to not getting a fixed position, similar to Uttapa. Uttapa has been moved all over the order since Conway's return, and so has Moeen. Moeen's batted at 3, 4, 5, and 6, and he's not had more than 2 games in a row in the same position. So I don't think that's working for him either. I think he has a lot of potential with the bat, which we saw last game. We saw a glimpse of it. I mean, he smacked Rashid Khan for two really good sixes, and he looked like he was getting in good touch. But then that was cut short again by some good bowling by Gujarat. But in the absence of Jadeja, Moeen Ali has actually stepped up with the ball a lot this season compared to what we've seen from him usually in the IPL. Like last game, he had figures of 1 for 11. The game before that, 1 for 17, then 3 for 13, then 2 for 28, and then his 3 games below that were all really economic bowling with an economy of around 6 runs per over. So in the absence of Jadeja, he's really stepped up with the ball, and I still think just because of his all-round ability, he deserves a place to. He deserves to be in the team. Um yeah, Uttapa, he was doing well as an opener. They moved him down the order. And as we've seen with Rajasthan Royals and KKR, whenever Uttapa's down the order and he's not opening, he doesn't perform that well. I think opening is his best position. He got orange cap in 2014 after he was moved up to the top of the order while batting majorly at 4 throughout that season. So I don't think that's working for them. Raidu, he scored around 300 runs this season, but it's been more of like a hit and miss. Like some games he plays really bad, and some games he does decently well. Um, and like speaking of Raidu, um, something happened recently, and Raidu actually tweeted that he was retiring, and then half an hour later, that tweet got deleted, and then another hour later, the CEO of CSK said that that Raidu is not retiring, and that he might actually he was feeling sad that his performances were not up to par, and he made an emotional decision on retiring. But then they talked to him, and now he's not retiring. So that's weird. This is the second time Raidu's uh, taken back his retiring, obviously after the World Cup, and Raidu seems to be taking the Shahid Afridi route and just announcing his retirement.
Aight. Works. So now let's move on to the second team we're gonna talk about. Another fourth place contender along with RCB and my team PBKS now, which is the Delhi Capitals. So Delhi Capitals this week, they've played 2 games, I believe. They beat RR. So let's first talk about that game where they defeated the Rajasthan Royals. What are your guys' thoughts there, and how does it affect the table?
I mean, I think the defeat of Rajasthan Royals was quite good because it opened up the table more. But now that Rajasthan have defeated Lucknow Supergiants, it makes it kind of closed again, because then it's again all these teams fighting for the fourth spot instead of all the teams fighting for the third and fourth spot. But talking about the Rajasthan Royals game, I think one thing that we love to see was Ashwin's innings. His move to number 3 actually, it can go both ways, right? You can say it paid off and it didn't pay off, because if if we see in terms of Rajasthan's perspective, they got someone who hit 50 of 38, but but from Delhi's perspective, they got someone who hit 50 of 38. But from Rajasthan's perspective, they missed out on a key innings from Sanju Samson, who could have scored, 16, 38, I guess. Anyway, moving on. A clutch performance from Mitchell Marsh in the Delhi Capitals innings, 89 from 62. It looked like he was sorry. It looked like he was okay. Mitchell Marsh looked like he was playing on a different pitch altogether, because we saw 14 batsmen bat, not 14, 12 batsmen bat in this pitch, and Mitchell Marsh altogether looked like he was playing somewhere else. Even David Warner, someone who's in form, someone who's played in these pitches forever, hit 52 of 41 and barely got his mojo towards the end. Mitchell Marsh's innings from 89 from 62 was quite the marvel, because when you're in that kind of form, and he connected the ball so well, he just took the game away completely from the Rajasthan Royals, and it's all on him. And apart from that, their bowling, if you see, I think Chetan Sakaria and Khalil Ahmed have a great battle going on there. Both are bowling quite well, and Khalil missing out due to injury is quite sad for him, because he's had a breakthrough season. I think he might in a couple of years, if he continues to do this, he might break into the India squad again. I don't know if that's the case though. But one person who's been having a terrible season, I think, is Akshar Patel. Even when the pitches are slowing down and the finger spinners are getting a lot of wickets from these pitches, Akshar Patel is not getting anything. I mean, when Glenn Maxwell and Shahbaz Ahmed and Moeen Ali, basically part-time spinners, are getting a plethora of wickets, one would expect someone like Akshar Patel, who had a great season last year, to get wickets, but he's not, which is quite sad to see. Other than that, if we talk about the next game, if I may move on to Delhi's next game. Wait, they played only one.
Or did
Yeah,
they?
they've played only one.
Oh, they're
They played
playing
only one,
another
that's
game
right.
today against Punjab.
Yeah, the game is
Okay.
today against the Punjab Kings, which
Yeah.
is also quite an important game, because
Yeah.
only one of these teams. So whoever loses today is basically knocked out. Let's keep
Well,
it
not
that.
really, because if Delhi,
Another thing.
if
No,
Delhi
not
loses
really,
today, but
but
RCB
essentially,
loses, and
No, see, like CSK was not knocked out until the previous game, but they were basically knocked out.
no, I mean,
By
look,
that logic,
if DC loses today but wins their next game, and RCB loses their next game, then they'll both be on 14 points, and DC needs a better net run rate.
No, DC has a better net run rate.
Yeah,
DC will.
exactly.
No, see, if RCB is in a net run rate position, they lose. RCB isn't beating.
the RCB
anyone
has to win the next game to qualify. If RCB loses against Gujarat, they're out. But
Exactly. DC has 2 matches left, and they're on 12. So if they win
Yeah,
2 games, then they're at
if
16.
DC
If they
or
win one
Punjab
game,
win their next 2 games, and even RCB wins their next game, DC or Punjab will qualify because they have a better net run rate than RCB.
Yeah, it's for DC.
RCB
It's
needs
simple. Like
DC or Punjab to
if
lose one match.
if DC wins 2, DC qualifies. If DC wins 1, it's DC qualifies unless RCB wins. If DC wins 1, RCB needs to lose for DC to qualify.
Yes, if
Have a
you
chance of
if you
qualifying.
assume
And
that
if DC
RCB
loses both, then Punjab has a chance of qualifying and RCB has a
if,
chance
if
of qualifying.
if you assume that RCB wins against Gujarat, this is a knockout game. If you assume that they don't, then it's
Exactly.
favored a bit.
Another thing that will help DC actually is Prithvi Shaw is scheduled to come back tonight against Punjab Kings. So that'll fix another top order problem for
Another
them
thing that
with
will
like
help
PS
DC
Bharat
is
and
that they're
Mandi.
playing Punjab and Mumbai, and by playing Mumbai, they'll be playing a weakened Mumbai side who are obviously playing for pride, and they'll be looking to utilize their youngsters, right? So you guys want to move on to the Mumbai Indians? Let's do that. Let's move on to the Mumbai Indians. So they played their solitary game this week against the Chennai Super Kings. Daniel Sams, Jasprit Bumrah took apart the Chennai batting order with absolute ease. Well, there's not much of a good batting order there, but they still did it. So, EP for them. Apart from that, in their chase, they lost 5 wickets. Granted, some beautiful bowling by Mukesh Chaudhary and Simarjeet Singh. Well, to be fair, from a Mumbai perspective, from the Mumbai batting perspective, there's nothing much to say about this match because it was quite like rudimentary performances to get them to. Well, they need to get a 98, so you don't need like a stand-up performance. But Tilak Verma batted quite well for his 34 of 32. He played him and Ritik Shokeen played a smart innings to get them across the line, and Tim Dale provided the finishing touches. We see yet another failure from Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan. Granted that the ball was swinging like left, right, center, and Mukesh Chaudhary was bowling well, but a failure is a failure. And Daniel Sams, that move was
So
absolutely.
I want to ask you this question: is Daniel Sams actually good? Because
no,
I still don't actually believe those figures and that performance.
The only reason he got that was one, the umpire is stupid.
Dude, the umpire, yeah, dude, the MI won thanks to Daniel Sams and thanks to that umpire, bro. I'll allow it.
Yeah,
Conway decision.
am I always due to umpires? Just an
That's
FYI for all the viewers
right.
watching.
I remember the.
Okay. Yeah. So then he got the top 3 out, but then that wasn't too much of a big deal, I would say. Because Daniel Sams, he's done well in the Big Bash League, but on Indian pitches, I don't think he's your guy. And the move to send him in at 3 was, I don't know what you're thinking, bro.
No, I think they just sent him in because they knew it was a tough pitch, so they just wanted him to go and hit. That failed.
Yeah, well,
but I think
1
that
out of
was
6, 1 in 6, that worked out quite well for them, eh? I mean, yeah. So that was Mumbai's solitary game this weekend.
Also, Pollard was dropped.
Yeah, Pollard was dropped.
That we both. I thought he would be.
So like Tristan Stubbs came in last game. He obviously failed, but that's a tough pitch, so they'll give him another chance. But obviously, I think the real successor should be Dual Brevis, Baby AB as they call him, and I think he'll be a regular player in their playing 11 next year. This year, obviously, not so much, and I guess that's been the theme for Mumbai, right? We just keep talking about next year and how good they'll be next year, but this year has been a season to forget.
See, I think one person who could have been a replacement for Pollard, granted he doesn't have the West Indian power and whatnot, would have been Jimmy Neesham.
They had him last year.
Yeah, I know they had him last
in
year.
2021.
I was so sure that they're like brewing up Jimmy Neesham as a replacement for Pollard, but they didn't bid for him this season. So I guess they think he's shit.
Yeah, but that's surprising to me because Jimmy Neesham did well for them last season.
Jimmy Neesham has done actually well for every team he's played for, like mostly other than Punjab. I think did he play for Punjab? Yeah, I think so. But the one thing that you see is Jimmy Neesham has been dropped from New Zealand contracts as well. I don't think that's quite a good decision to make by the New Zealand Cricket Board. But anyway, Jimmy Neesham would have been quite a good replacement for Pollard. And if Rajasthan leaves the Jimmy Neesham next year to, I don't know, bid for someone else or like they just don't like him, I think Mumbai should go for that because he's kind of like a carbon copy of Pollard, just 10 times worse.
Fair enough.
I think he's possibly a better bowler than Pollard.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
When Pollard was bowling in his prime, he was good.
Yeah, in his prime, but like right now, I think he's a better bowler than Pollard.
Technically, Jimmy Neesham's prime is now or a couple of years away from now. So, like,
If you actually look at his career, his prime was probably 2019 in the World
no,
Cup.
I think now that he's had more experience, his prime is yet to come. So I would say it's either going to be now or a couple of years from now. 2019 World Cup for him sure was good, but now or a couple of years from now, we'll see.
Yeah. So since we started talking about Jimmy Neesham, let's just move on to Rajasthan Royals. And after yesterday's match, they're basically in the playoffs now. After their win against LSG, solid bowling performance, and obviously Jimmy Neesham played that game coming back after a while, which I think made sense. And now they're basically in the playoffs, and Hetma is going to come back for their next match. So I think that only solidifies their lineup.
See, one thing about Rajasthan Royals, as I mentioned this on chat as well. So the one thing that you see is games with Butler scoring runs, a game without Butler scoring runs, because Butler's had a season. He's had a two-faced season, right? On one side of the coin, you saw Butler hitting hundreds every game, hitting hundreds of one, taking bowlers apart. That's the first half of the season. Then when you see the second half of the season, the coin turns around, and you see a batsman who's not able to get the ball away and who's not able to score the big runs. So if you take these two distinct sectors, with Butler performing, they win around 4 out of 5, but with Butler not performing, they win 2 out of 5. So Butler makes a huge difference in that side. And something that's someone who's actually in the recent games made it okay for Butler to fail is someone like Yashasvi Jaiswal, who's hit I think he hit a 50 and now he's hit a 40. He's taken a bit of the load away from Butler. And I tell you, if Jaiswal's innings was not there in the Rajasthan Royals batting lineup and Devdutt Padikkal had opened and you had Karun Nair or someone batting lower down the order, I tell you 100% Rajasthan Royals lose this game, because Jaiswal, the only reason they got momentum after Butler got out, because they were literally prodding around and not scoring. So Jaiswal's been absolutely key for them. Samson's been having a topsy-turvy season, as you mentioned before. And I think Padikkal, I didn't expect him to play well at 4, but he's done well. He's getting the scores. He's got a 30 here. He got a 40.
Yeah, I think you mentioned last night's match. I think more important than Jaiswal and actually getting the momentum going for Rajasthan, I think it was actually Padikkal. 39 and 18 balls, 200 strike rate. And I've been critical of Padikkal in the middle order for a long time. But I have to give him props. He really got those middle overs moving. And obviously Jaiswal deserves a lot of credit also for batting through a lot of the inning, batting through the tough times. But I think Padikkal was actually the catalyst in getting Rajasthan to the score where they got, and he really set the tone for those middle overs.
Personally, I believe the best batsman for Rajasthan last evening was Trent Bolt. He really took the game away.
That first
one all-rounder.
Banger shot, bro.
For real.
Batting coach is surprised. You see him. Man, he had no clue.
It's his first 4 in IPL. And he had 2 of them.
First 2 fours. Wait, he had 2, right?
Yeah, first 2 fours.
First 2 fours in the Indian Premier League, and the first one was quite a good one, I must say. He whacked the shit out of Mohsin Khan. First of all, I don't know why Mohsin Khan was bowling the 19th over, considering that Jason Holder had an economy of 6, had taken 1 wicket and had 2 overs left. There was absolutely no reason to bowl Mohsin Khan for that over. There was also absolutely no reason to bowl Stoinis after they had got Padikkal out, because Padikkal had put the pressure back on them, and Stoinis had no reason absolutely to bowl there. Shit captaincy from KL Rahul. On the other hand, Rajasthan Royals, quite good captaincy from this fellow, Sanju Samson. He bowled 3 overs up front and got him back at the right stage. I think Bolt was exceptional with the ball. Sending in Ayush Badoni at 3, I don't know what KL Rahul was thinking. Every opportunity.
Have we just moved on to Lucknow now?
No, wait. I'm just saying, every opportunity I get, I'm going to shout at KL Rahul for his captaincy. He lost his
let's just move on. Let's just move on to
Lucknow. Yeah, actually move on. Sure. I don't know. Nothing else to say. Yeah.
So you mentioned
captaincy by KL Rahul.
Yeah. So you mentioned that. So one of the points I actually listed on in the show notes was Lucknow has so many bowling options. is that kind of hurting them, because KL Rahul just has too many options. Like,
See,
there was no need to bowl Stoinis, there was no need to bowl
I
Badoni.
I
Even
think
though
there's
Badoni got a wicket, there was no need to bowl him. They didn't finish Avesh's quota, who's bowling really well. They didn't finish Krunal's quota, who's been really well for them this season. They used Bishnoi in a really weird way, like towards the back end more. It's just really odd bowling changes from KL Rahul. So is having like too many options actually a bad thing when you don't have a captain who's particularly good at using them?
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? Your captain is everything, because we've seen captains who've had a plethora of bowling options, right? Because MS Dhoni, when he used to play with CSK, the CSK of 3 years back, I think, whenever they 3 4 years back, whenever they used to win, they had 7 or 8 bowlers in their lineup. I'm pretty sure they did, with like, Harbhajan Singh here, Piyush Chawla here. They had a lot of bowlers in their lineup.
Kedar Jadhav.
And sure, Kedar Jadhav, worst player to play the IPL. So they had an insane amount of bowling options, but Dhoni used them to absolute perfection, and CSK had a title run that season, right? So it's all dependent on the captain. Having a lot of bowling options isn't necessarily a bad thing, because technically, if you see this time also, I don't want to mention it, but Faf, he's had a lot of bowling options. Even at the start of the season, RCB played with 8 bowlers, I think, and I think he didn't get pushed or persuaded into using all of them at all. We didn't even bowl Shafin and Rutherford. We used only 2 overs of Willie at the top. Even with Dhoni, Harbhajan at the top, done, bowl my other bowlers. Jadeja, 1 over per game. So you just need a tactical mind for that, and I don't think KL Rahul has that. His captaincy, I don't know why he's the vice captain of India, considering Rohit Sharma is going to be injured every 2 seconds. So I think KL Rahul
Hashtag make Bumrah vice captain.
Literally, even make Rishabh Pant vice captain. But just he needs to work on his captaincy, according to me.
Yeah, and also like the reason is LSG is like they're a team of depth. They have incredible batting and bowling depth, and that's probably because their entire team is like all rounders. They're number 3 through what? They're number like 8 or 8 9 are all rounders, and even Decock and Rahul are their keepers and batsmen. I know that's not the same thing, because not all keepers in the team.
See, I mean,
That's
like,
not my point.
that's perfectly fine for a team. It makes their team so
No,
balanced.
that's
right?
the thing. But if you have someone who doesn't know use them and just compulsively uses as many bowlers as they can without this thing, as you talked about, then it doesn't help them really.
See, I think building on that all-rounder point, he doesn't even know how to use his batting, because Stoinis batting so low just baffles me. He could have won them the game yesterday. Krunal Pandey coming in above him was a huge blunder, according to me. Ayush Badoni coming in at 3 was a huge blunder, according to me. I don't know why why you're making him play Trent Bolt. It's the first time in his life he's facing Trent Bolt opening with a new swinging ball. I don't see the logic in that. Deepak Hooda's performance in number 3, send Deepak Hooda. After Deepak Hooda, send Marcus Stoinis. Okay. And apart from that, I still don't understand why Krishnappa Gautam is not playing. I don't care what you do, just play Krishnappa Gautam. He's been so good for you. They have a perfect side.
Also, it's not like they've secured a top 2 spot. Like, I get it, if they've secured top 2, they can just try experimenting with all their options just to like have a clear mindset of what they have while going into the playoffs. But they've not secured that top 2, and losing that match against Rajasthan actually hurts their chances of making top 2, because Rajasthan is the other contender. So like sending Badoni at 3, or bowling Stoinis, bowling Badoni, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Even though bowling Badoni worked, it was a bad move.
Yeah. Even though it worked, they shouldn't have done that.
Fair enough.
All right, next team. Let's see. Who do we want to talk about? I will choose. All right. So since Punjab beat RCB, let's talk about the Gujarat Titans. So the Gujarat Titans have been in the last. They hit a what do you say?
They had a small
roadblock.
a couple of losses.
They had a small hiccup, but they're now 1-2-2. The game against CSK, to say the least, was clinical. Amazing performance. While batting, they executed the chase perfectly. Vidyaman Saha goat. And against the Lucknow Supergiants, I actually thought they had an under par score, but then the bowlers just ran through that batting lineup of theirs. Rashid Khan, when the pitches start to slow, Rashid your man. Even if people try to play him out, you're not going to be able to play him out. He's that good. Mohammad Shami, economy of 1.7 that game, 2 wickets. The 2 wickets in the recent game. He's been a wonder towards the start, and I think Hardik Pandya is a captain who knows how to use his bowling resources. Like, um, like he's using Shami really well. Sometimes bowling him three up top when it's needed. I know sometimes he's not, but Hardik Pandya bowling in the power play is a really good option as well. Alzari Joseph has been used to perfection, such that he's been getting economical overs in and key wickets. Other than that, not much to say about Lucknow. Vidyaman Saha is hard carrying them at the top when Shubman Gill is. So I think it's something
GT in
like,
it.
yeah, one of them is always performing. I think it's just something like that.
Yeah, so
Either Shubman Gill.
Ridhiman Saha's striking at like 140 in the power play at an average of 96. That's insane. He's just been fantastic for every IPL team, even for SRH while opening, while Punjab, obviously Vivian talks about that 100 a lot in the final against KKR. But he just performs always, and teams are always very reluctant to use him. But whenever they do use him, he always performs. So like, I think he's like a very, very good option, and they got him like pretty cheap also.
And the role
And one more thing.
he's even
One more
outselling
thing.
himself. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Drop Matthew Wade. Yeah, continue.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, so they got Matthew Wade at number 3. I want to talk about that. So they dropped Sai Sudarshan and Lockie Ferguson, and they got Matthew Wade at number 3. He's not done particularly well. I think he got 11 in 7 balls the first game, and in the most recent game he got 20 and 15. I still think you need Lockie Ferguson. Lockie Ferguson's just such a good bowler, and you can play Sai Sudarshan at number 3. He'll do at least as well as Matthew Wade is doing right now.
Play Abhinav Manohar at number 3. Bro,
Oh right,
it's not that hard.
Abhinav Manohar exists. Yeah, you can play him at number 3 also. And yeah, so I don't get why they keep going back to Matthew Wade. Even if you want to play another overseas batter, try someone else like a Gurbaz who you have. Like Matthew Wade's been tried this season, and even though I advocated for him to bat at number 3 at the start, before the season started, I think it's time to move on. Another guy I want to mention again is Sai Kishore. So he's been doing really well for Tamil Nadu in the last few domestic seasons. He even bats like at 4 or 5 for them in 50 overs, and I think he finally got his debut after being stuck at CSK, the graveyard for youngsters, and now he's performed really well in his first match. Actually, against LSG, he took 2 wickets and only gave 7 runs in 2 overs. So he's been bowling fantastic, and it's good to see Gujarat actually giving a lot of names that like you wouldn't expect to do well, like Saha, like Pradeep Sangwan for a few games, like this guy Sai Kishore, uh, and Tewati, of course, and they've been actually performing really well for them. So it's good to see that from Gujarat Titans.
Yeah, what I was saying about Saha before it got a bit tangential was what did I just say? What I was saying about Saha was the role that he came. He's even outselling himself because the role that he came into play, or that I thought he'd come into play, was the role that he played for SRH a few years ago, which I talked about. It was just coming in and hitting like 35 of like 16, 17 and getting out. And as Rayan's saying, now he's averaging like 95, which is in the power play, which is like unbelievable. So he's outselling himself and even what fans of him expect from him at the top. So Saha is a definite dub for the Gujarat Titans.
Guess who's
Well,
not outselling themselves at the top? Kane Williamson. And
Are we moving on to SRH?
Yeah, we're moving on to SRH. And after Kane Williamson's last knock against KKR, which was a very handy 9 of 17 balls. His match impact, which I talked about last game, has dropped down to minus 111, which is an all-time low for any IPL batter in the history of IPL. So Kane Williamson's 2022 season is officially the worst season for any batter ever. Time for him to not
let me add on.
open, maybe.
Um,
And we are saying
I
that
don't
for like the
think
4th week in a row.
this seems like a Kedar Jadhav 2.0 moment. You know, coming in the death over and playing at a strike rate of whatever 10 or something, and now Kane Williamson's here playing at a strike rate of what is the strike rate the entire IPL 80. I don't know what the man is doing. At the moment, it seems like he should drop himself, but he can't drop himself because there's no other captaincy option in the side, as we mentioned last time. Um, I think if he drops himself, Nicholas Puran will become the captain of Sunrisers Hyderabad. And I don't think anyone wants that. So I think Williams is
Or
going
it
to have a
might be
scary.
Bhuvi captained them for like half a season back in the day, I remember.
Maybe, but what I think Williamson should do is send Tripathi opening and come at 3. At least in the they have 1 game left, right, or 2. They have 2 games left. At least for their last 2 games, Williamson, I think he should try himself at 3. If he fails there, then I don't know, man, just bat at 7 or something. Just captain the team. Do what Owen Morgan
I would
did.
actually propose sending Aiden Markram opening, because I don't want to have I don't want to have Kane Williamson and Aiden Markram coming back to back, because like they're very similar kind of players, and Tripathi is just a guy who like hits from the first ball. So I would prefer to have Tripathi at 3, just to separate Markram and Williamson.
Yeah, but if you're batting Williamson at 4, you're just not bat him. Like Williamson at 4 is in that top 4, Abhishek Sharma, Rahul Tripathi. Okay, in the top 3, Abhishek Sharma, Rahul Tripathi, Aiden Markram. I have a feeling they're going to bat on most days for around about 7 to 8 overs as a minimum, most likely 10 overs, right? Because that's how they've been performing the entire season. So if Williamson comes in at that stage in the middle overs, right? I was watching an analysis video. It said that whichever team wins this period in a game, the 11 to 15 period, whichever team wins that period will most likely win the game. And I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because 11 to 15 is when you set up 15 to 20. No, it's 16 to 20. And 16 to 20 is where you score most of your runs. So if you get the 11 to 15 right, which is your calculated acceleration, then you get the entire game right. So if Kane Williamson is coming in at that stage and he scores, I don't know what, man. Let's say he scores 12 or 15. It's just nullifying their entire whatever they've built so far, because Williamson is just destroying it completely. So Williamson at 4 to me seems a tad bit irrelevant. So I'd say 3 is max for him.
SRH have also lost 5 matches in a row. So first, this is how their pattern has gone. They lost their first 2 matches, then they won their next 5 matches, and now they've lost the 5 matches after that. So it's been pretty a pretty weird season for them. And yeah, if you actually look at those 5 matches in the recent times they lost, they've not had Washington Sundar and Natarajan. Natarajan and Sundar obviously just came back last game, and Natarajan, while hitting more Yorkers than most bowlers would, he still didn't look like the bowler he was before his break. So hopefully after maybe another game, he bowls more in line to what we're used to from him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it from SRH. They
I mean,
can still
it's
qualify.
obviously like, yeah, go ahead.
They can still qualify, but at this point it looks unlikely. If you just look at the table and the upcoming fixtures, it probably looks like Punjab, Delhi Capitals, and RCB are the 3 most likely options to qualify, even though SRH and KKR are still in the league.
Yeah.
So we'll move to, we've talked about DC, which is a qualifying option. We'll move to Punjab Kings. And
No, wait. Hold on. Let's do KKR because KKR played aside. We're on that game anyway.
Oh,
so
fair
let's
enough,
chase
fair
yeah,
it.
yeah. So let's talk about KKR.
One thing
Obviously,
about KKR, I'll say one thing before you go on your rant. The only person to have ever carried a team more than AB de Villiers is Andre Russell.
yeah. Oh, okay. So I'll just give you some stats about that. So since 2015, there has only been one season where Russell's strike rate has been below 150, and his strike rate that season was 144. So not too bad. Um, and his average below 25, only one season, 13. That was in 2020. Apart from that, in every season, his average has been more than 25 and strike rate more than 150. In 2022, which is this year, his average has been 42 and his strike rate has been 183. That's pretty good if you ask me. Second only to Dinesh Karthik's strike rate this season. And his best ever season in 2019, his average was 57 and his strike rate was 204. So, and that season he was in the top 5 run scorers in the IPL. He had scored over 500 runs, batting at 6 and 7. So Russell's just been carrying KKR nonstop, and this is his second best season statistically. He's just it's just insane how much Russell and Narayan continue to carry us. Like Narayan in his last game, he went at 8 runs and over, which might seem like a decent day for everyone else. This is the first time this season Narayan's gone over 8 runs and over, which is insane. Narayan and Russell have been doing this for around 7 years in the case of Russell, 7 years in the case of Russell, and 10 or 11 years in the case of Narayan. Um, it's honestly very sad to see from a KKR point of view when we keep messing up our auction strategy, and every season Narayan and Russell like just have to save us. It's really disappointing. Uh, yeah, there's not much to say. Obviously, Pat Cummins got injured, and thus Umesh Yadav came back in. Sam Billings for Sheldon Jackson. So one thing that is another positive for me this season is Umesh Yadav. It's really heartening to see like these old test bowlers like Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Shami and even Bhuvneshwar Kumar just dominate the power play. Bhuvi's obviously not got the wickets, but his economy has been brilliant, and the comeback of Umesh Yadav has been really good to see as for me as a fan of him. Even completely separate from like the fact that I'm a KKR fan, um, Umesh Yadav's comeback has been pretty good uh, for me as a fan. Another big revelation that came out, which I want to hear your opinions on, is um, in the match versus Lucknow, KKR skipper Shreyas Iyer mentioned that obviously the team CEO has say in team selections, and that obviously stirred up a lot of debate on social media. Um, and this isn't the first time. Obviously, Warner left because of that, and and Shreyas faced this issue in Delhi also. But now in his game versus SH, Shreyas cleared up and said what he meant by that statement was the team CEO comforts players who are not picked after the team selection. So I don't think that statement was necessarily good because it just makes things look worse for KKR. What are your views on that?
I mean, like, it's
See, I
obvious
think the C
he was clearing himself up after the initial statement because
But do you
what is
believe it?
no, of course not. What, that's so silly. No. He said it the first time, and then the CEO came to him. One of the CEO's dudes came to him and was like, "Hey yo, allow it. Don't say that kind of stuff." And then he had to clear it up if he wanted to uh, remain a viable candidate for future KKR selection in future. I don't know, but it's obvious that there was pressure on him to change his strategy, and he did. So yeah.
See, one thing I like to say about CEOs making decision is, CEOs 90% of the time don't know anything about actually playing the game, and the people who know about playing the game are sitting in that coaching staff, and the person who knows the game, the people who know the game the most are the two gentlemen called Brendan McCullum and Michael Hussey, who have played for the respective national
David
sides, who
Hussey.
have coached teams. David Hussey, sorry, Michael Hussey. Yeah, Michael Hussey's David Hussey, yes, who've done wonders in the IPL as well. David Hussey for Punjab and Makalam for KKR mainly. So I don't think a CEO should have say in team selection. See, I know most about RCB, so I will give an example from RCB. At the auction table, the CEO raises the paddle, but it's not the CEO making the decision. It's it's Mike Hessen and the dude sitting next to him, making those decisions, right? Whether to raise the paddle or not. He's just listening to what Hessen tells him to do, and he's doing that. And he's just making sure, like, they don't bid like 50 crore for one person. Even in the case of the Punjab Kings, I think the CEO had a more active role in that, but it was mainly Anil Kumble and John T. Rhodes. I think John T. Rhodes making those decisions. Um, on the other side, if you look at it as well, if you see the Gujarat Titans and Lucknow camps, I think the CEOs were more involved because it was their first season. But other than that, I think it's the say of the coaches and what the coaches decide. In the case of the SRH planning, we saw that Kane Williamson was the one making the calls, which I don't think should be the case. I think it should be the coaching staff who is present there making the calls and following the auction plan. CSK, I think Fleming was on call with the people at the auction table and they're making the calls. So I think the CEOs should let that job of team selection in the auction and team selection while playing in the playing 11 to the coaching staff, because they coach their players, they know them the best. And I think too much interference from the top brass management affects everything that you do on the field.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Speaking about like picking teams and all, is it time for hashtag bring back Akash Deep?
No, it's not. Please. For I know Siraj has been absolutely useless, but someone who is even more useless is Akash.
Yeah, that too.
Siraj
Om
has
didn't
had
even
like
see
the
the
second worst.
Om didn't even see that
He's had
one
the
Akash
like
Deep match where he went for like 60
like
runs.
statistically, Siraj has had the worst. Is the worst bowler this IPL.
No, see, I
Statistically.
don't mind that. Okay, like, cool. He's a good bowler. Give him his chances. Keep him in the team. Don't bring Akash Deep back in. A person who would be perfect to bring back in would be David Willey, but he's an overseas player, so we can't. So just don't drop Siraj. See, I think one thing that RCB has done well this season, which they have not done last season, I guess I moved on to RCB, is stick with their players, right? They stuck with Anuj Rawat for I think 7 to 8 games. I think that was really brave of them before moving on to Rajat Patidar. They've stuck to I never thought I'd say this, but they're stuck to Virat Kohli. Okay, they're stuck to Mohammad Siraj. So they're sticking with all their players, and you would expect that a performance will come from them at some time or the other, because I think it's a leaf for a Dhoni's book. That's what Faf is doing here. He knows Dhoni really well. He knows what CSK does. You stick with your players, right? Shane Watson, you stick with him, he gives you 100 in the final. Virat Kohli, you stick with him, he'll give you runs somewhere in the next 5 games. Okay, you can see that Virat Kohli is getting so unlucky. He could the flick shot of Jagdish, so that ball goes anywhere a bit left or right, it's safe. He picked the fielder exactly, right? That catch of Kagiso Rabada, he played the shot there. He touched the sliver of his glove on the way to his hip. So he's getting tremendously unlucky. And we saw a couple of shots, the cover drive and the flick shot that he played against in the previous game against the Punjab Kings. They were good, so good signs there. But one thing I'd like to say about Kohli is, when you see the lows of such a player, you understand how impossible the highs were. Because 2016 to 2019, or if you're taking it further, 2015 to 2019, in a sense, when Kohli played for India, I expected 100 in every single game he played, an ODI game or a test match. I expected Virat Kohli to score that 100, and most of the time he did, because that was the time he was in. And now that he's unable to score, 1 run, he's gotten golden duck 3 times, by the way, which is the joint highest for 13 players in the IPL. Well, including Raina and Rohit Sharma, so that's fine. But still, you realize what he did at that time and the how good he was when he played his cricket before COVID, and that really makes you respect him, because when it's not there now, you're noticing well, you know desolation. Other than that, if I'm talking about RCB, everyone's been quite good. It's just that the batting lineup needs to come together and execute their or perform together, because Faf has one good game every 3 to 4 games. Kohli has no good games. Patidar is consistent. Sending Mahifal Lomra over Glenn Maxwell was the worst decision ever made in the history of decision making. Shabazz and Dinesh Karthik, you can't expect it from them every game. So I'd say they're pretty solidly set to beat Gujarat Titans, because Gujarat Titans are now qualified for the top 2. So I believe that they'll play a weekend side. They might even try Matthew Wade again. But with the weekend side, I think RCB can beat them and qualify. So yeah, that's it for me from RCB. The Kings' time will come.
See, the way I look at the Siraj and Akashdeep situation is, see, you can make an argument that they both are pretty bad. But then if you want to choose who to pick, look at their biceps. And Akashdeep clearly has much bigger guns than Siraj. Siraj is quite clearly lacking over there. So for me, it's a clear choice.
It's a no-brainer.
Akashdeep wins.
Fair enough. I don't think
Good
Om
analysis.
agrees with the decision-making process there.
See,
but,
you stuck with him for 12. You stuck with him for 13 games. There's no point just directly sending Akashdeep into the playoffs. Just continue with Siraj now.
No, the thing is, you stuck with him for 13 games, and over the 13 games, he did terribly. So
no, it's a must-win game. You need to give yourself the best chance. And up till now, Siraj hasn't been good.
Bro, the thing with RCB is they don't have to bowl Mohammad Siraj. So he can just literally just be in the team. They don't even have to bowl him.
I mean, you don't have to bowl
Akashdeep
either.
Huh?
Yeah, you don't have to bowl Akashdeep either. That's like the argument should be who's a better bowler.
Either way, I think they should continue with Siraj, because one day or another you'll see a game where he's taken 3 wickets, given 18 runs in 20 overs.
You know who has taken 3 wickets in a single game? Akashdeep.
Useful. Bro, the matches I watched when I was not traveling and Akashdeep was playing, half of his wickets were gifted to him. Okay?
Siraj isn't even getting that.
Siraj isn't even getting gifts, bro.
It's okay. The other bowlers are doing well enough. Don't play Akashdeep. See, I think this is when RCB could have used a bowling all-rounder. See, the main reason I say stick with Siraj is because Akashdeep doesn't add anything to the batting resource anyway. And if I'm getting only bowling, I'd rather trust an experienced campaigner like Siraj more than Akashdeep. If they had an Indian bowling all-rounder that they could genuinely pick and play, then I'd have 100% taken him. And I don't think there is someone like that in Indian cricket who can do that as of yet. Someone like a Hardik Pandya, basically, but at a low-class level, because Hardik Pandya is too expensive to buy. But something like that. Someone who plays that role at 7 or 8, gives you 20 runs in 10 balls, bowls you 2 overs, and you're done. Basically a Jimmy Neesham, but Indian.
Are you talking about Akashdeep, the batsman with the first-class high score of 44? That's more than Kohli can get these days.
Siraj has I don't even know what Siraj's highest score is. I'm going to Google this and tell you Siraj's highest score in Test cricket. Siraj high score cricket. Mohammad Siraj has had a 16-run innings in a Test match. Against, well, to be fair, that's actually quite spectacular considering he played Australia, England, and I don't think he played against New Zealand, but that's quite spectacular considering who all he played. So,
right, so that settles the debate, I think. Clearly, Akashdeep is back because of his guns. And we'll move on to Punjab Kings now. The team that Vivin did his intro with, Vivin's supporting them now. Vivin, what do you make of I remember we said this last time. Bairstow should open, and guess what
Yeah,
happened?
See,
exactly.
Bairstow
I
opened
stick
and
I stick
destroyed
by my
them.
decision. I stick by my decision that Bairstow should not open, and I present to you the following case. If Bairstow had not opened, RCB would have won the game. Hence,
Oh,
Bairstow should not have opened. It's
wow.
kind of
Incredibly
straightforward.
unbiased argument that does not take personal allegiances into account. Okay, we mentioned this last time. We had a long debate. If you guys haven't watched it, go watch it. A long, impassioned debate as to whether or not Bairstow should open and or whether Mayank Agarwal should open. And Rehan and I were obviously supporting Bairstow, and he performed once again. Om said, "Oh, it was only one game. Now it's more games." So yeah, Bairstow is unequivocally the better opener, and and we were right. Is all I'm saying. Bairstow did an amazing innings. Apart from that, you also had the other foreign batsman for Punjab, Liam Livingston, the man of the biggest six of this IPL, 117 meters last game, I think. And yeah, he had a brilliant 70 runs that really propelled them. He absolutely took Josh Hazelwood to the cleaners. Hazelwood's been fairly good this entire season. For
Fairly
us.
good. He's been better than your entire bowling lineup put together. Well, to be fair, I think Hazelwood, if you put him, if you look at all the bowlers, he's been as good as anyone this IPL.
Okay,
Any
fine.
pace bowler you take it, Hazelwood's
And-
been as good as them. He's been as good as Sunil Nayan has been, right?
Hazelwood has
But better
been
because he's bowling the hard overs.
bestowed upon the honor by Liam Livingston of being the single most expensive bowler in this season. I believe he gave 64 runs.
And RCB's
No.
history.
And RCB's
in
history.
RCB's history, he's the most expensive.
Yeah, he
player
took it from Shane Watson, and in this IPL, he took it from I think it was Jansen, right? Jansen had it
Yeah.
before at 63 and now at 64, or somewhere along those lines. So yeah, brilliant stuff from my Punjabi brothers. Even though I'm not from Punjab,
Nor is he.
huh?
Nor is he. He's English.
Oh no, I was saying I was talking about the team in general, not
Oh, right.
Liam Livingston. But
We saw the Shikhar Dhawan, Arshdeep, and Harpreet Brar do the signature thigh slap.
Even Livingston did it. Even Livingston did it.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
in coordination after
Yeah.
their win against RCB. Another really
Gotta love
impressive
it.
thing, which I think just is amazing, is Bairstow scored a 50 in the power play. Like his 50 came in the power play. It was a brilliant innings. And I want to talk about Livingston a bit because he's sort of gone under the radar. Everyone's talking about Butler, KL Rahul, but Livingston scored 385 runs at a strike rate of 180. That's like striking it around Andre Russell, and he's batting like at the top of the order. He's done brilliant for England in the last year, and like we knew he could do this in the IPL, but like Rajasthan didn't use him effectively last year, and now he's just been brilliant for Punjab. Like 180 strike rate for like a number 4, that's really impressive. And he bowls too. He bowls off spin and leg spin.
I think a person who's had lesser of an impact than Livingston, but has gone like really under the radar is Jitesh Sharma. He's been absolutely amazing at the death overs role. I think he has the 4th highest strike rate this season. Well, I mean, if you're striking above, Maxwell and literally everyone at that, he's striking above everyone at the finishing role other than Dinesh Karthik and Andre Russell, and that's a huge thing because you've got some big names in the finishing role. You've got Dhoni, you've got Pollard, you've got the new star Tim David, you've got Hetmeyer, you've got who's Delhi finisher, Ravman Powell, Rishabh Pant. He's striking above all these players and he's doing the job for Punjab, and I think it's really good to see. Actually, a lot of Punjab people have gone under the radar. Arshdeep Singh has bowled really well this season, but he's not got the what do you say, eye-catching performances. But he's been absolutely magnificent as a bowler this season. Rahul Chahar, he's dipped after his initial games. He's gone a bit down, but I think the other Punjab bowlers are, in a sense, making up for it. So I think Punjab's quite a decent side. I don't understand them playing Harpreet Brar. It seems like Harpreet Brar was picked in the side to play against RCB. He's played.
They literally said he was picked for RCB.
he's played 3 games this season. I think 2 of them are against RCB. Like he's played both RCB games. So
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work out, but the other bowlers got the better of all the RCB batsmen.
He did hit one really, really nice six.
Oh yeah, the straight down the ground. Yeah, I remember that very well. Unfortunately, so yeah, I mean Punjab seems quite solid. I don't think they're qualifying for playoffs. I still think it's going to be RCB because of obvious reasons. But if it's not RCB, it's going to be Delhi. I think Delhi will win tonight because Delhi is Delhi and Warner's OP. So yeah,
I have one thing to say to that, okay? And this is going out to all my Punjabi brothers and sisters who can understand Punjabi hopefully. Ao Pajaba de Raje Tusim Loka Isa nu Jita Sakade Ho Unham Arasibi Murakam nu Ujara Dio Ate Unham de Paje Tom Kota Satana Lao Dusata Jiti Aila Asaji Ate Ara nu Nasata
unfortunately, I didn't start this meeting, so I can't mute him.
Isa Sale Siraleka Lao 2014 De Fain Allah Vice Keke Ara Tom Apane Hara Da Badala Lao Chalo PBKS Chaliye. So
that's the worst. That.
So thank you guys.
Okay,
I
so
hope.
let's move on from that quickly. We'll do our always weekly awards.
No, wait. I
Performer of the
want
week,
to do
performance of the
something
week.
before that. I know this is an IPL recap podcast, but talking about we've seen a lot of what do you call them? I think we should name one of our episodes this, right? The end of the IPL. We've seen a lot of old war horses come back and perform so well. Umesh Yadav, MS Dhoni, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar to an extent, he's been out with injury. Mohammad Shami, Robin Uthappa. These are the people that we grew up watching play. And I think one more person that we grew up watching play and watch absolutely destroy sides is Angelo Matthews. And he scored currently against Sri Lanka. He's hit 167 not out, and he's still going. And well, to all the people who grew up watching him, I think that's a great thing to see because he's been in the side, but he's been out of the great form, the form that he used to carry back in the early 2010s. So amazing from Matthews, and to an extent, even Chandimal, he's at 66. He's also an old war horse. So
yeah. He's actually had a control percentage of 96 this innings, and it's a chanceless run. Like he's not given a single chance to the Bangladeshi bowlers. It's been a brilliant innings. I've actually seen him play quite a bit because he used to be with Delhi back in the day, and I used to obviously live in Delhi, so I used to see him play for Delhi Capitals like a lot. It's good to see Angelo Matthews performing again for Sri Lanka. Another thing I should mention while capping this episode off is a tribute to Andrew Symonds, a great Australian all-rounder in all formats of the game. Obviously a limited overs beast, but also has a test average of 40. He's been brilliant. Obviously played with Mumbai Indians and Deccan Chargers in the IPL. First 100 for Deccan Chargers. And it's really sad to see, like, Warney passed away obviously a few weeks ago, and before that Rod Marsh, another legendary Australian cricketer, and it's really sad to see. And this one hurts a little bit more because it wasn't even a natural cause. He passed away in a car crash, which makes it even more tragic, and obviously condolences to everyone who knew him and loved him and his family.
Yeah, rest in peace. Okay.
Yeah,
the
so
awards.
we'll end it. We'll end the episode on a positive note, talking about some of the best performances this week. I'll start with my performer of the week, and I have to go for KKR lad and Andre Russell. I mean, that brilliant 49 not out, and then 3 wickets against SRH carries us like always, and it's just another brilliant performance from the main man of KKR, Andre Russell. And for my performer of the week, this guy's been awfully consistent, and it's really really heartening seeing him do so well. I'm going to go with Ridhiman Saha. Um, Obviously, a big fan of Ridhiman Saha. He just got dropped from the Indian test team because he's too old. And obviously, he had that incident with the journalist who threatened him. And to see him given the chance and performing so well is heartening. And like Om mentioned before, an old warhorse. So that's good to see. So those are my performer and performance of the week. Who are yours?
See, this is the last week I had to think hard of my performance of the week, but now I'm actually lost in choice because there have been so many great players to come out this week. So for me, the performance of the week goes to Mitchell Marsh because, well, 2 wickets and he looked like he was batting somewhere else. They might have been playing somewhere, but he was batting in, like, I don't know, man, on like a 10 bridge pitch or something like that. And my performance of the week, there are so many candidates to give it to, like, from Vidyaman Saha to someone like Daniel Sams, even though, well, he did get the wickets, but to someone like an Andre Russell, to Jaiswal, Parikal, so many options. But the one person who's stood out in his performance of the week, it's Mukesh Chaudhary. I think his bowling against Mumbai was magnificent. He's bowling against world-class batsmen and getting those wickets up front, swinging the ball. It was pure class to see. None of the Mumbai batsmen had an answer for him. So Mukesh Chaudhary is my performance of the week.
Fair enough. Okay, my performance of the week goes to Liam Livingston for his fantastic knock against RCB. Bairstow gave Punjab a great start, obviously, but Livingston was able to really push them to get an unreachable total for the hellish batting order that is the Royal Challengers Bangalore. And so that was great. And he obviously took one of the best bowlers, or the best according to him, of this season, Josh Hazelwood, to the cleaners. So that was very good. And my performer of the week, I'm gonna give it to Rahul Tripathi, because even though SRH, this isn't really just for this week, it's for the past few weeks actually. But I mean, like this week, a lot of teams only played like one game, such as Punjab. So I think Punjab only played one game. Either way, I'd give it to Tripathi because SRH has been on a losing streak, but he's been the one bright spot. He's been the one bright spot in SRH's in SRH's sort of performance over the past bit. SRH's bowling has obviously failed them, but I'll give it to Rahul Tripathi for his innings against RCB. Man scored 58. Oh, I think Om dipped from the call, so that's a bit of an L. You're on mute, mate.
Yeah, so anyway, I think we're done with the episode. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Check us out on all the different podcast platforms. They're everywhere: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. Yeah, like watching video content. We have some extra stuff here, like vlogs, shorts, clips, and a lot of fun stuff happening here. We'll be back next week for week 8 of the IPL recap, then obviously playoffs and finals, and we have some exciting content coming up for you, which we can't announce just yet, but something different, which is related to the IPL finals. And then obviously the India versus South Africa series is looming, and we'll be covering that too. So that's it from us today. Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Yeah, and one more thing. I'd like to read another thing. Chalo PBKS. Tusim iha kara sakade ho.